Stats Champions League Season 1. Round of 8. Alchemixt versus Phonetap.
Okay, so he does go for the Druid, and we see Shade of Naxxramas. That's a good early pickup. And the Spectral Knights, I mentioned that earlier in Alchemix deck. Those are kind of a card that I've really been cycled out of Druid quite a bit.
Yeah, then like mostly popular cards right now are Azure Drakes, and for a longer time we've seen the Taunt Druid, so we've seen Sage Belcher being played in a Druid deck. But Spectral Knight is still a contender, still a great card, especially versus Warrior. Unfortunately for Phonetap, he didn't get a Wild Growth. He didn't get Innervate as well, so he is up for a slower start. He has Shade of Naxxramas, which will be important, and Ancient of Lore, one of the better cards in this matchup to get to the cards you need. But on the other hand, Alchemixt having everything more or less. No weapons.
He does have the Gore Howl, but none of the early weapons. But he's got a Shield Block or an Acolyte here. Which do you think is the better option of those two? He's gonna go for the Shield Block and just develop his armor early.
I think Acolyte is a card you might want to use later in the game with Whirlwind, especially with Alchemixt running both Unstable Ghoul and Whirlwind. But then again, let's think about like how Alchemixt can win the game. For Druid, it's like super simple. You just play minions, go face, respond to whatever warrior, like not even respond to whatever warrior plays. Warrior will have to respond to your plays. So you're just need to press advantage. But how can Alchemixt win this game?
How can Alchemist win this game? I guess just develop his armor and really get those minions out on curve and just really threaten the board and not allow Druid to build up anything.
Yeah, that's the thing he has to do. He basically needs to develop the minions, trade whenever he can, and somehow create a situation where he is the aggressor, and then use the weapons to be able to keep his minions on board. That's why Gorho will be important in this matchup. So if Alchemixt keeps the armor, keeps the advantage, then he will just start using armor to kill minions. He will lose health in the process, but he will be able to keep that and control the board. So this match might prove to be very interesting, and I'm definitely curious to see how Alchemixt is going to deal with the Spectral Knight right now.
Yeah, it's pretty good on curve for Phonetap. He does have options. And we're going to see the second Acolyte come down for Alchemixt. I think that's a Harrison Jones in hand for Alchemixt in the middle there. That's not going to do a huge amount of good, but he's going to go for a Whirlwind and draw here. Actually, trying to think, is that smart? I'm not...
I think that's fine. You're drawing a lot of cards, and instead of going with Fire War Axe, attacking... he has the Fire War Axe, right? It's next to Gorho, if I believe.
Think so. It's hard to tell, particularly as they're golden and kind of throws the coloring off a little bit. It's harder to tell with such a big hand.
All right, so if that was a Fire War Axe, that decision was correct, because you do want to save health and draw as many cards as possible to increase the quality of your plays every turn.
So the Pilot Sky Golem comes down. Phonetap doesn't make Alchemix overdraw, which he definitely could have done. But he opts to go for the Silence and Armorsmith. Alchemist playing it pretty safe right now, not playing out any of his big minions and just kind of developing his board with these smaller creatures. And yeah, he's looking at the Fiery War Axe here.
That only proves that he knows this matchup. He knows how to play around those big minions with this small stuff, and execute removing a 6/3 right now, giving him armor and also drawing a card. Oh, he actually saves the execute. That's smart as well.
That Shade is going to keep growing, and that's going to be a Savage Roar threat later on in the game. We are getting pretty close to the combo turns. I don't know if Phonetap's maybe running 2 copies of Force of Nature. Most likely is in a deck like this.
Yeah, but still, Phonetap was not able to deal any damage. He did deal some damage, but then Alchemix is 30 health or 29 with 1 armor. So this is not a point. This is not something you want to see as a Druid. And he even thinks about swiping right now. Like normally, you should have Warrior around 20 health right now, or maybe 15. and continue playing minions that the warrior has to deal with. But right now, Phonetap is in a situation where warrior is just sitting healthy at 30 with lots of cards in hand, and you are the one who is behind. Even though you have this big shade, he is afraid to like show it in attack because it's damaged. So a single execute can deal with this.
The Spectral Knight actually, in hindsight, is a pretty good pickup here because he doesn't have... Alchemist doesn't have a huge amount of damage on board. He's going to use the Gorehowl to clear it. This actually feels like a pretty good use of Gorehowl. It's a minion with a lot of health and not a huge amount of attack, and obviously can't be targeted by spells. So that's a pretty good use of Gorehowl that he's had since the starting hand.
I'm just thinking like, oh, what is the Alchemixt plan? If he survives, like obviously he wants to limit the minions on board so that this Savager is not that powerful. But on the other hand, you do want to get to late game and play Alexstrasza and Grom. There is a Harrison Jones.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's a really good pickup for Phonetap. He's going to be able to clear out this Gorehowl. Obviously can't reveal the Shade because it would die to the Gorehowl. And tons of other removal that Alchemist has in his hand. So many ways for that slightly damaged Shade to die.
But still no Brawl.
No Brawl. So we're going to see Sludge Belcher. I think we probably see the Harrison Jones here, right?
Yeah, but we are getting to the turns where we should start counting for lethal as well. With this Shade is dealing 10 points of damage with Savager. So with a Silence, I think this turn is pretty powerful with Harrison Jones and maybe Silence in the 3-5. But then the question is, Phonetap really has to think about the Brawl. Alchemist got so many cards that if Phonetap is not going to attack with this Shade soon, he might actually lose his chance to attack with it at all.
Yeah. There's a very late Wild Growth. Turn 9, of course, categorically and objectively the worst turn to cast Wild Growth.
Do you silence the Sludge Belcher to try to get a lethal next turn with Savager Swipe? Or do you maybe use the Shade to kill the Belcher and develop a piloted Shredder?
I kind of like the Silence. I think you got to start getting damage in, or this Warriors, it does have, there is an armor spec on board, and the armor could start getting out of control. So that's what we're going to see, and that Shade is just going to go face.
I liked it. I definitely like it because
BGH as well. So lots of options for Alchemist.
Yeah, Alchemist can remove this Shade with a single breath, but Phonetap got some value. We have to remember that it's actually a turn 3 card. It's a card he paid 3 mana for, and it was able to deal 8 damage. That's a good deal for 3 mana. And it's getting to get like removal out. And just waiting more is just asking for Brawl.
Yeah, and like you say, with so many cards in hand for Alchemist, those scary minions could start coming down. And if you're Phonetap, you've got to think that you've got to start setting up for lethal pretty soon. That Shade is going to die, but there's 7, 6. So it'll be 13. There is actually, if he doesn't clear the Harrison Jones or the Keeper, there is lethal with the Swipe and the Savage Roar.
Well, if Phonetap gets Force of Nature off the top, then it's probably lethal as well. If one minion survives, then it's like lethal. But the Phonetap is definitely doing a good job here. He got to the point where Warrior is quite low and it's close to the combo range. So for Alchemist to win this game, he has to do everything in his power to protect himself from the combo.
So there's a second Sludge Belcher coming down, and that's going to be pretty huge.
Yeah, right now this board is definitely difficult for Phonetap. Druid doesn't have a good way to clear. There is a Swipe with Azure Drake, and that will be very powerful actually. It's giving Alchemist some armor, but if you're able to clear the board like this, I think you go for that.
Yeah, I think so. That feels really good.
Wow,
Double Savage Roar. Oh man. Yeah, Alchemist kind of knew it was coming there. Yeah. He's going to give him 4 armor, but that's pretty big.
Yeah, exactly. It's like dealing 2 damage, like even dealing 2 damage to face is actually huge. And I was talking about Swipe with Logan some time ago. Logan's a guy who plays a lot of Druid. And he told me that Swipe is one of the worst AoEs in the game, as it is. But then if you get at least 1 spell damage, it's one of the most amazing AoEs in the game.
Yeah.
And here we could see that, just clearing the whole board with arms with 2 health and BGH. 5 damage to the main target, 2 damage to face. That was pretty huge.
Yeah, I mean it's like, I guess Swipe is slightly worse than Arcane Intellect than Arcane Explosion plus Frostbolt. So if you look at it in that sense, I can see what he's talking about, it being the worst in the game. So you got to reset here for Phonetap and try and find a way back to lethal. There's nothing on board that Shield Maiden comes down to really get him out of range. You have the double Savage Roar, but do you just start sort of not quite tossing minions out here, but probably got to start getting that Shade out to try and threaten with Savage Roar later on. I'm trying to look how many cards he's got. He has too many cards to play Shade of Naxxramas and Ancient of Lore, because then he would overdraw next turn.
If he plays them, he has 9 cards. So if he plays them, he will have 7, and then he gets plus 2.
Oh, sorry,
yes,
yes,
9, so
7.
it's fine.
Yeah.
I think that's the play as well.
You want to 9 cards just now.
Actually, having a lot of cards, he has a lot of decisions here. And basically, what the gist of it is that you want to have minions on board, and the best way to have minions on board is probably to play Shredders, because with Shredders they will die, but they will still spawn some minions that will give you some advantage. But then I like the Shade and Ancient of Lore play, because Warrior is getting out of range. Shade, as you said, like this is something that will stay on board possibly, and you want to have an option to draw into Innervate and Force of Nature, because then you force and double Savage Roar with a minion on board, being, let's say, Shade of Naxxramas. You deal tons of damage and can actually kill the warrior, like one-shot warrior, which has what, like 30 health, possibly 29. So definitely that was an interest, a one play he could do. Going for 2 Belchers, 2 Shredders, you do develop minions that will that are a bit sticky.
Yeah, it's got the BGH in hand, so that's going to deal with the Doctor Boom pretty well. Bombs are going to die straight away, so he's going to try and kill this Shredder, I think, with the bombs. And lots of armor. Oh, Explosive Sheep!
Explosive
Oh no! Oh no!
Oh my god, the sheep! So much armor as well.
That's crazy. Wow, that was a big turn for Alchemixt in terms of armor.
There is a Nervate, so Force of Nature. If you would play, if you would draw into that earlier, that would be amazing. Right now, he is facing this Dr. Boom. He has to start thinking about Alexstrasza. With Alexstrasza being dropped next turn, he will go down to like 7. So yeah, this is not a great spot. Like he will definitely have to play BGH to kill the Boom. But then what else do you do? Maybe you just start with draw, because you might want to play Lothab as well, to have like a big body on the board. You can even play Ancient of Lore, draw cards, and then decide if you want to just BGH and pass.
I think you can set yourself up in a good spot here with going with the BGH and then Ancient of Lore, and if you want to, you could innervate the Wild Growth just to filter your deck a bit more and try and get into a Savage War position, but he's going to go with the Lothab.
Lothab is pretty nice, and with Ancient of Lore I'll probably innervate the Shapeshift to kill the Armorsmith to avoid an Execute. Right now he still like kills it to avoid Execute, even though Execute will cost 6. Lothab is a good play because you do develop a board and you stop removal spells, more or less.
Yeah. The shield being coming down means that the warrior is got a pretty big amount of armor right now. We're going to see that Ancient of Lore finally.
And is he going to pick up Force of Nature? Nope. And this is an awkward position for Phonetap, because you would like to innervate Druid of the Claw, maybe, possibly, but then you do want to keep innervate for a possible Force of Nature pickup. So he still has that Shade of Naxxramas, which is fine.
He's just going to go to face with a Lothab, try and set himself up with a nice board. Shield Slam. That's pretty big.
Yeah, that's a great removal card. Kill a 7-mana creature with a 1-mana card.
I mean, we talked about Swipe being one of the worst AoE removals in the game. Is Shield Slam arguably one of the best removals in the game? Just because it is a 1-mana spell?
It's definitely a great removal card, but I think still you do use Execute this turn. With you attack one of the 5/5s with a weapon and then execute the second target. Oh, is he going for the trade then? Interesting. He probably will have to develop a Harrison Jones then. Oh. He is still going to execute and deal tons of damage. Attack face with the weapon and rage. Oh my god, that's a lot of damage.
Yeah. Gormash is getting pretty scary here, and there's really no way for Phonetap to deal with it.
Well, he can kill Grommash with the Druids and the Swipe, or he can kill with the Wrath and attack and swipe. He can...
That's probably okay.
Yeah, there's like lots of ways. The fun fact is that if you would top deck a Force of Nature here, he would win. Is there any chance for lethal with the Druid of the Claw? He's probably counting that. That's 4, 7, plus 12. That's 19 points of damage. Not quite.
Yeah, not quite enough. And he's staring down a pretty scary board from Alchemixt. And this is the problem that we saw with Alchemixt. Playing the game really slow, playing lots of small minions to start off with, is that he can really scale into these late game minions, and Phonetap hasn't been able to burst him down, and hasn't been able to draw Force of Nature as well, pretty crucially.
I'm thinking what's the best line of play here. He can... Wow. So being Phonetap, you want to kind of like avoid being killed, and if you can't leave the Shield Maiden on board, because then Death Spite is going to kill you, unless Alchemix actually uses both Death Spites. He used Gorehall, he used one Death Spite for sure. So you need to clear, but on the other hand, you want to deal some damage and have a minion on board in case you actually get a Force.
Cool Taskmaster. So the Harrison Jones is going to come down, and obviously doesn't reveal the shade, so there's no way to kill it. And he's getting the armor building pretty high again. Keeper of the Grove, what does that do?
This still actually looks good for Alchemix.
Yeah, this does look pretty good here. It looks like Phonetap isn't going to be able to get him into range, and Alchemist is going to have possibly some other big damage coming in.
I think being Phonetap, you just wild grow first, and then you can think about trading and playing Druid of the Claw. Depending on what you get, you definitely want to get the Force of Nature, and you do want to clear. So you wild grow first, see what you get, see what you draw. You're in a position where you can't ignore this Harrison Jones. You just can't ignore it. You have to kill it. Oh, now it's like pretty easy. You just develop Boom and clear Jones and pass.
Well, that Delta Boom does kind of change the complexion of things a little bit, because it's 9 damage with double Savage Roar is 12.
Alchemix has a way to respond to that with Execute and even a stable Ghoul. But then, this game got pretty interesting. Does Alchemix run Ragnaros? Do we know that?
I don't know. We have seen, obviously, Gorehowl. You know, that's a big top of the meta curve card that can often see things like that fall out. We haven't seen a Baron Geddon either. There's not many cards in either player's deck left, actually. There's the Force of Nature, but that's going to be probably a little bit too late.
Wait a minute. It can...
So it's 14 plus 6. That's 20 damage from the combo here. What do you feel about just using the combo for damage here? And just going,
I think you do use the combo
because you've got Druid of the Claw and a second Savage Roar. I think you just combo here, clear the board, and push in damage, because Alchemist has no cards in hand. Yeah. And you've seen so much of the removal at this point. There's only so many. Oh, 4 to face with that bomb as well.
Well, I think there is no reason not to use the combo.
That's pretty perfect, actually.
No, it's actually... Yeah.
4 to face. Doesn't hit the unstable ghoul, doesn't kill the unstable ghoul off the first bomb, so is able to then use the second bomb to attack. Actually, just goes with the Druid Claw and the Keeper.
That's
Iron
it. That's
again
game.
coming down
That's definitely game with
with the
Force of
combo.
Nature and Savager. That's over.
Wow.
Pretty great play from Phonetap. Just using instead of just going yo with combo, just being able. Oh my god! And an
Oh.
Innervate. That's. I just want to see the whole finish with Innervate.
Do
Come
it.
on,
Do
Phonetap.
it.
Just double Innervate.
BM. No,
Ah,
he's not
he's
going
not
to do
dead.
it.